And now, finally, what we've all been waiting for, I'd like to present our 2012 keynote speaker, Cruzado. Dr. Cruzado is the first woman and the first minority woman to serve as the university president in the state of Montana. In less than 2 years, she has significantly reshaped the face and future of Montana State University. Cruzado was born and raised in Puerto Rico, the oldest of 4 children. She grew up in a house shared by her parents, 2 aunts, and her maternal grandmother. None of the adults in her home had gone to college. Her mother was a housewife, her father worked for a coffee company, but they all valued education and were determined that she would have more than they and would excel at the opportunities given her. I think it's a universal feeling that you want your children to have a better life, said Cruzado, who has 2 children of her own, both in college. All parents aspire to give their children better than they have, and a vehicle to do that is education. Her grandmother took the lead in Cruzado's education, teaching her to read at age 3. In the mornings, Cruzado would help her grandmother ready the rice and beans for the family. Then, with the pot simmering in the background, she would sit at the kitchen table and work through an elementary primer. She taught me the stories of Rosa, Pepin, and their dog Lobo and cat Mota, Cruzado said. It was like turning on the light bulb. This was only the beginning of a life and career in education. Cruzado has said, when you put education in the hands of the sons and daughters of the working class, you give them the power to pursue their aspirations and to participate more fully in their families, their careers, their communities, and their nation. Without it, people become frustrated, hopeless, and sometimes the environment. These are the words of the daughter of a housewife and a coffee company worker who is now a university president, whose children aspire to be a lawyer and a college professor. I asked Dr. Cruzado what our theme, 100% Possible, means to her. And to her, 100% Possible means pure potential, helping young people to realize their potential and encourage them to draw out their talents, skills, resources, and their beauty. Dr. Cruzado truly exemplifies our theme, 100% Possible. Please welcome Dr. Cruzado.
Good morning. Welcome to your university, Montana State. I'm trying to take this out from here to see if you can see me, actually. That's how we conquer challenges in life. Welcome to your university, Montana State. What a wonderful group. I feel so proud. I feel so energized, and I feel absolutely terrified to be in front of this very powerful group of extraordinary women. I was sharing with Secretary Juneau, who, by the way, is one of my heroes. I'm used to talk with people. I'm used to address large groups, usually of adults. But today is different. It is such a huge responsibility because what I have here in this room is precisely that. It's 100% possibilities. I usually talk about the past, but here I'm talking about the future. The future of Montana, the future of America, and really I realize that I only have this opportunity, and I just don't want to mess it up. So, first of all, congratulations to the core committee. I know from experience that planning this type of events, it's a monumental task. So, and for the individuals who also invited me to attend, Deborah and Vanessa, I think that all of you deserve a round of applause right now. Well, and if you detect an accent, it's the mic. And we will have an opportunity to talk about the things that make us scared, the things that keep us from realizing our potential today. But first of all, and I know that you're eating, but may I ask you a favor? We have placed some index cards in each table. Can you please grab one right now? And can you please also take a pencil? I promise this won't be too long. First of all, first question. How many of you, raise your hand if you like music? Excellent. Look around the room, right? So the first question on the front of that index card, right now, write down, which is your favorite musical instrument? What's your favorite musical instrument? You have 10 seconds to do that. Ready? I see people eating, I'm not writing. Okay. Now, turn your card. Turn your card. And this one is a little bit more difficult. And tell me why. Why is that your favorite instrument? Ready? Did you notice that when I asked a question that started with what, the noise in the room still continued? But when I asked a question that started with why, there was a profound silence. Why questions are the most important questions, because they make us reflect. Now here's the magic of this exercise. Keep your card on that side, but now read out loud, and you're going to replace the opening sentence, "This is my favorite musical instrument because," substitute that with "I am," and tell me what you wrote. I am. So what happened? Anyone wants to share? There? Yes. Out loud.
I am breathing and wonderful. I feel alive.
Exactly. Exactly. Round of applause. Another one. Yes, over there.
All right. I am allowed and love class, and I am two great things in one. I'm pretty amazing.
Fantastic. Another round of applause. And one more, the last one. Yes.
I'm overboard because it's like speaking out. There was some emotion and investment that you can't understand.
Exactly. Another round of applause. See, and I'm sure that you thought about this, that you are like a musical instrument, that you're strong as a percussion instrument, like a pair of drums, or that you are beautiful, like a string instrument, like a guitar, or that you are happy, like an air instrument, like a flute or a trumpet. So let's think about that. And I'm going to propose that we think about that, answering three basic questions that all of us ask ourselves sooner or later. And two of them are what questions, what and where, and one is a why question. Basically, who am I? Have you asked that yourself sometimes? Who am I? Second question is, where am I going? Have you asked that? And the third one is, why am I here? Raise your hand if you have asked yourself those questions. Exactly. Okay, so the first question, who am I? Who am I? This is the lesson part. This is the history part. It was mentioned before. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. Do you know where Puerto Rico is? Excellent. Puerto Rico is an island located in the Caribbean Sea. It's right there. This is the Caribbean Sea. That's Puerto Rico. That tiny dot there. Okay. Puerto Rico's area is 100 miles by 35 miles. To give you a sense of perspective, Puerto Rico fits 42 times in the state of Montana. And yet, we have 4 million people in the island. While in Montana, a place that's 42 times larger, we have less than 1 million. I think that that gives you a sense of perspective. It also explains why we are very social, we're exuberant, and we're very loud. And I hope that you are also too. So Puerto Rico, the island of Puerto Rico, was discovered by Christopher Columbus on his third trip to the Americas on November 19, 1493. As I mentioned before, this island is 100 miles by 35 miles, and I was born right there on the westernmost coast, Mayaguez. Okay? It's an Indian name that means wonderful waters. This is the flag of Puerto Rico. Okay, the same colors as the American flag. Puerto Rico is known as the island of enchantment. Needless to say, we have absolutely spectacular beaches. These were the sights and the sounds and the colors that I grew up with, being from a coastal city. We also have beautiful valleys and wonderful rainforests in Puerto Rico. And we have been associated with the United States since 1898. See, from 1493, when we were discovered by Spain, we remained a colony of Spain until 1898, when after the Spanish-American War, Puerto Rico became part of the United States. That's why, since 1917, all Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens. So people have asked me, do you have a visa? Well, I don't need a visa. I'm a U.S. citizen. Okay? I was born there. When you go to Puerto Rico, how many of you want to go to Puerto Rico? Excellent, fantastic. When you go to Puerto Rico, you'll see that everywhere we display two flags. The Puerto Rican flag and the American flag, because we are part of the U.S. Because we're part of the U.S., we have the same currency. We use the U.S. dollar. Because we're part of the U.S., we use the same postage system. You don't need to pay more to send a letter to Puerto Rico. Actually, if you are going to send a letter from Montana to Colorado, it will take how many days? How many of you know? 3 days. If you send a letter, if you mail a letter from here to Puerto Rico, how many days will it take? 3. Exactly the same. Okay? Actually, we have the same currency. And you know that for the past few years, we have been having this wonderful special issued quarters. Have you seen the one for Montana? I hope that you have. Well, pay attention. Make sure that you turn that every time, because you might very well get the one from Puerto Rico. See, it says Puerto Rico, and then it says in Spanish, Isla del Encanto. What do you think it means? Island of Enchantment. Exactly. Now, here's a mystery here. We are U.S. citizens, but we do not vote for the President of the U.S. if we live in Puerto Rico. Why? Because we're not a state? Why? Huh? Because we have our own government? You know why? Because we do not pay federal taxes. How many of you have heard about the original Tea Party? No taxation without representation? So since we cannot vote for the President of the U.S., we do not pay federal taxes. But when we move to the U.S., now we get to vote for the President of the U.S. Why? Because we pay federal taxes. Exactly. However, it's funny because political candidates travel frequently to Puerto Rico when they are in campaign. For example, can you see Hillary? Can you see the background? What does she have in the background? The Puerto Rican flag, exactly. And this one, I don't know if you have heard this type of music, rap. So Daddy Yankee, right here to the left, is there with the Republican candidate, John McCain. The one that was running for president was John McCain. Okay? And then right here, who do we have? Who are those two? President Bush and Ricky Martin. Exactly. La vida loca. Have you seen that in Spanish? Puerto Rico con Barack Obama. Vota Junio 1. That was in the last campaign. Okay? So there are these wonderful close ties in every aspect of the island. Okay, how many of you can recognize these Puerto Ricans that I have here? Who's that one? To your right?
Ricky Martin.
Ricky Martin. Who's this one? Benicio del Toro, exactly. And who's that one? J. So all of them are Puerto Ricans. So you know a lot about Puerto Rico, you just did not realize it. And then there's another Puerto Rican that now you know. Well, that's me. I was not too happy. And that's my father. And the reason, I still don't know if I wasn't too happy, because my mom did not want me to wear my cowboy boots, which I really love, my plastic pink cowboy boots. Or because she cut my bangs way too short. So I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and I attended the land-grant university in Puerto Rico, right there in my hometown. The land-grant university there, University of Puerto Rico at Maya West, is the sister institution to Montana State University. All my life, I have been associated with the land-grant university, and I'm very proud of that, because these are the universities that are in charge of educating the sons and daughters of the working families of America. And that's how we make sure that we allow for social mobility and that we strengthen American society. So, they mentioned my two kids. Let me introduce them. When they were little, they don't look like that anymore. To your right, that was Jerry. His real name is Gerald Christian. And this is Brenda Nicole. And they were born in Texas while I was going to graduate school. And I always say that having them greatly enhanced my position in Texan society, because now I was the mother of two authentic Texans. This is Jerry and Brenda some years ago. So Jerry now is 28. He's finishing his residency in pediatrics. So he's going to be Dr. Jerry. And then Brenda just graduated last June. And then that's my mom, and Brenda, and I. And I want for us to stop and talk a little about powerful women in your life. And this is, I don't have the intention to say that men are not important. Our fathers, our uncles, our brothers, our uncles are so important. But there's something special about that connection with our mother. It is the most fulfilling and sometimes the most stressful relationship. Is that, do you agree? Let me hear it. Do you agree? Exactly. You know very well that a comment from your mother can be the most healing or the most hurtful. Someone can tell you the same thing and it doesn't hurt as much, or it doesn't heal you the way the words from your mother can do. And have you noticed that we are very critical of each other? the things that is fascinating is that mothers and daughters have these very special relationships where we really are very hard on each other. I love this book because it says, "You're wearing that?" Okay, raise your hand if your mother has sometimes asked you that. All right, put your hands down. And be absolutely honest. Tell me if you have asked that from your mother as well. Isn't that true, huh? Plus, it's not only with what we wear, it's with our hairdo, our hair. Have you noticed how your mom says, "Why did you get your hair that cut so short this time?" Or "Why do you have your hair so long?" And you do the same thing with your mother. There's a quote here that I would like to read, because I think it's absolutely powerful. A mother's gaze is like a magnifying glass held between the sun's rays and kindling. It concentrates the rays of imperfection on the kindling of her daughter's yearning for approval. When I try to see this from my mother's point of view, I recall a time when I was the one with the magnifying glass, and my mother was the one I trained it on. Many daughters, especially when they enter their teens, subject their mothers to harsh scrutiny. I remember doing that to my mom. And I remember feeling it from my daughter Brenda. When sometimes I felt that she didn't want for me to attend the same events, it makes you feel like suddenly you have grown another pair of years, and they're almost like ashamed. Like, "Mom, please." How many of you have said, "Mom, please"? Right? Exactly. So imagine my surprise when my mother was diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer, 7 years ago. Well, that was a transformative time and brings everything into perspective. And then 2 years later, she was diagnosed with colon cancer. But she's a fighter. And even then, we fight with each other. When she would complain about the therapy, and I would say, "Mom, let's take it one day at a time." And she would look at me and say, "It's easy for you to say." But it gave us a sense of reaffirmation. So when you think about it, be kind of your mom. Because you know what? The tables will turn. And for me, tables turn, and for Brenda, who has also been very critical about her mother, table turns yesterday. At 5:40, Brenda made me a grandmother. So meet Aurora Zia. Aurora in Spanish means done. Zia in Navajo means it's the sun. So for me, it's the start of a new day. And if you were to ask me, I think her hair is perfect. And I think she's wearing just the right type of clothes. So when you ask yourself, who am I? Your past will be so essential because it will mark your future forever. So next question, where am I going? And in that sense, since we were talking about looking glasses before, sometimes you will feel that your journey in life feels like being Alice in Wonderland. Have you felt like, oh dear, I shall be not too late? Right? We need to rush, we need to do certain things. I remember feeling distinctly that I held the key to some very important decisions, and I didn't know exactly where was I going. I remember feeling very insecure. First of all, I was a woman in a world of men. And I'm 5 feet tall. I'm not too tall, right? I'm short. And then I speak with an accent. So I thought all those things were minuses for me. Therefore, there were many times when I felt uncomfortable in tight places. Or quite honestly, that I was trying. But there comes a time when you realize, and I love this quote from the author of Little Women, "I'm not afraid of storms, for I'm learning to sail on my ship." And always remember that. You're not floundering. You are a queen. And it's okay to feel unsafe and to feel that you're weak. It's okay. You'll reach your destination, but you need to look inside of yourself. So, why am I here? Let me tell you this story. I don't know if you know how university presidents are selected. But these are national searches. And sometimes people give your name out. And I remember receiving this phone call from someone inviting me to apply for the president of Montana State University. And my first reaction was, I know it's a wonderful university. I have been learning a lot about it. I know it's growing, it's thriving. But I'm very happy where I am, I responded. A month later, they called me again. And my answer was, you know what? I have never been to Montana. I told my caller, when I think about Montana, I think about snow, mountains, and horses. And by the way, do you know where I was born? I don't look like, I don't sound like anybody in Montana. Actually, less than 2% of people in Montana are of Hispanic origins. And my girls, there was a moment when I remember lowering my head and asking, what do you see in me that I am not seeing? And realizing that I was allowing my fears to take the best part of me. So, I asked my daughter, what should I do? And my daughter says, I think you should apply, Mom. You go there, and if you don't like it, then you make a decision there. So I applied. I was the last person to apply for the position. I was in the files, candidate number 59. And thankfully, I was invited to come to Montana State for my interview. And then the miracle happened. By the way, I need to say, when I came, it was September the 28th, it was sunny, 82 degrees, absolutely fantastic. And next day for my interview, what happened? It was snow. But then I realized that people here were special. They were authentic. What you see is what you get. They were hardworking people. And as corny as it sounds, I need to tell you, I fell in love with Montana. And I went back home, and every night I would read something about Montana. I would go to Google and learn a little bit more about the demographics, about the landscape. And then, when I came back, I remember reading about the Great Seal of Montana. And at that same time, an email came in, and this is a person that is very near to my heart. And she says, I read this selection and I thought about you. Let me share it with you, and you will understand. So the selection is very simple. This is a women's club, a reading club. And this day they read a very short selection. And it was a passage from Malachi chapter 3, verse 3. And the verse said, he seeks as a polisher and refiner of silver. So the women look at themselves and say, what? So, sometimes we do. They say, okay, tomorrow, let's go to the silversmith shop. Let's learn more about it. That's exactly what they did. They get there, it's a small place, and you know what? Right there at the end of this very narrow place, there he was, sitting down in front of the flame. So they approached him, and they start asking questions. So, what are you doing? And he says, well, I'm here purifying the silver. Why are you sitting down? Well, I want to be very stable, because no matter how hot the flames are, I will never allow this piece of silver to fall in the fire. And then they asked, and how do you know that it's ready? And he lifted up his eyes and he says, oh, that's easy. When I see my image reflected on it. I thought that piece was beautiful. And I returned to my research about Montana. And this is what I found in the Great Seal of Montana. A beautiful round, there's the sun, our wonderful mountains, and right here at the bottom, what does it say? Oro y plata, gold and silver in Spanish. And then I said, I get it. So that's why I'm here. And in your life, the same thing will happen. There's a plan that will take you, irrespective of who you are or where you're going. You will find a reason. You will find that it's by being strong and beautiful and happy that you will get there. So this is my affirmation to each and every one of you. After you learn more about yourselves in that little exercise, we need to conclude. You are amazing. And as you are, you're stronger than you know, more beautiful than you think, learning, growing, not alone. Be strong. Be confident. Be you. And at this moment, I'm going to ask all of you to stand up right now. And at the top of your lungs, we're going to repeat the following. At the top of your lungs, at this moment, I declare that all of you are Puerto Ricans, and you're very loud. Okay? I am beautiful. I am beautiful. I am strong. I am strong. I am happy. I am happy. Again, congratulations. This is 100% full potential. Thanks for having me here.
Do you speak any other languages besides English and Spanish?
No, I don't speak any other languages. I read French, but I do not speak it. Un petit peu. Yes.
Alright, this is a very serious question.
All right.
What is your favorite color?
It's blue.
Alright.
It's blue, and it's fascinating because what are the colors of Montana State University? Blue and gold, exactly. That's good. That's why I knew this was the right place. Yes.
Did you ever think you weren't possible, and if so, how did you overcome?
Repeat that again.
Did you ever think something wasn't possible for you, or that you wouldn't be able to succeed, and what advice would you give for overcoming something?
No, I never thought. One of the things I have learned is to think positively against all odds. The other thing that's important is Actually, there was a wonderful African-American tennis player. Her name is Althea Gibson, who once said, every time you accomplish something, someone has helped you. And it's in that realization that we accomplish more when we have a community surrounding us. And with that sense of support, and with that sense of, I can do this, let me tell you, there's nothing you cannot accomplish. Is it easy for me to speak my second language every day? It is not. Sometimes when I get emotional or angry, I would like to start speaking in Spanish to people here right now. But it's something that makes me get better, that challenges me every day, that prevents me from getting bored. So mark my words, my friends, right here, right now. There's nothing you cannot accomplish. If you set your heart to it, if you ask for help, and if you enjoy doing it. So go get whatever that little star is, you can get it. Yes?
What did you want to be when you were young?
What did I want it to be? Well, I wanted to be a chemist first. Then I wanted to be an engineer. Then I wanted to be a philosopher. I mean, I was a very paranoid person. But I knew these things. I knew I wanted to learn, I loved to learn, and I knew that I loved to communicate what I had learned. So what was that profession that would allow me to dedicate my life to learn about the world that surrounded me and to let others know about the things that I had discovered? Well, it was being a university professor. So about age 16, I settled on this, abandoning my dreams of being a philosopher, an engineer, an astronaut, and I decided to be an English literature professor. And I loved it, and I still do. Yes?
Being a woman in power and dealing with stereotypes of not only being a minority, but, how did you overcome any of that again?
Well, that's very difficult.
Repeat the question.
Yes. Repeat it again. Louder, stronger.
Being a woman in power and having the position that you have at this school and this community, how did you overcome the stereotypes that go along with being a minority and a female?
Well, it's a very difficult thing to overcome those stereotypes, particularly because even though I think that you understand that this is difficult, there might be people out there who think that things are easier for me because of all these things, because I'm a minority and I'm a woman, so someone made things easier for me. I try to use both sides of that coin. I want to use my gender to inspire girls like you to come and do the same and even better than what I have done. But I also try not to focus too much on gender or ethnicity, but to focus on the things that I need to do and accomplish. And quite honestly, to invite people to help me. It's been by building a sense of community that I have noticed that then people stop thinking whether I'm a woman or if I'm a Hispanic or a Latina or I'm 5 feet tall, and then we talk about the things that we want to accomplish together. And that brings people behind the same goals. Let me share this very quickly with you. Perhaps one of the most daunting days as a university president was when I was introduced to a group of football boosters. Okay. We do not play football in Puerto Rico, you understand that. So imagine entering a room just like this, but with the opposite gender. All of them men. Big, furious, offended. So they started to complain and whine. And we are into the future. And I'm here to ask you, have you seen, I asked them, have you seen that end zone in our football stadium? I think it's beautiful. So what about if you help me tear down those old wooden bleachers? And what about if we had a great end zone and then we enclose it? And then I started thinking you were working out. And what about if you help me gain a new sound system where you can actually understand what is being said during the game? And what about if we had a new scoreboard? And what about if we had lights in the stadium? And at that moment, you know, they stood up and they were like, yes! And then I said, and what about if we have it ready for next year for Cat's Quiz game? And at that moment, they were delirious. And we set ourselves a very difficult goal of raising $4 million, $4 million in 90 days. In the middle of the recession. And people told me it could not be done. And even if we raised the money, which was not going to be enough, that winter was here, it wasn't going to be possible to build it on time. Well, my friends, I'm here to tell you, we did not raise $4 million in 90 days. We raised $6 million. And in 10 months, we built that stadium and we opened it right on time. And there we were, my big fat men celebrating with their women, with their Latina women president. That's absolutely important. I have found that we bring down our own. The most important thing is to go inside yourself. Remember that, who am I? Find those talents. And remain very focused on what the goals are. Like the core group here, when they planned this event, I'm sure that not all of them were on the same page. And many disagreements ensue. When that happens, always remember, all of us have something precious to give. All of us. Even that girl that you cannot stand, she has the talent. She has something. And forget about her. If you cannot stand her, go back inside yourself and get out the best of the gift. How many times it has happened to me in my life, too many to count, where I meet a person for the first time, a woman, I said, gee, whoa, has that happened to you? Or is that just me? Right? And it happens that we have to work together. We need to work together. And you know what? I realized that I was wrong. And that's one of the most empowering moments. When you realize the beauty in others. When you start thinking about and wasting energy, negative energy on, no, I can't stand her, or this is what you need to do. And focus on the goal at hand. And help each other. I could keep going back and back again to build that sense of community. Build that sense of sisterhood. That will enable you to accomplish anything you want. Okay? One more?
What's your favorite football team?
The Bobcats. So, no more questions? Yes. My favorite cookie? Too many to count. Let me count the ways. I love chocolate chip cookies. I love whole wheat raisin cookies. And I also love butter cookies. So everything that's fat and fatty and flavorful and with lots of calories in it, that's exactly what I love. Yes? I live in Arlington, Texas. Why? You lived in Houston, Texas. I lived in Arlington, Texas. Yes. My, it's the most boring toothbrush, except that it's one of the electrical ones now, and it makes a lot of noise, and it has that great vibration on it. So anything that makes me, yes.
What is your favorite part of being a woman?
Oh, that is a beautiful question. The most beautiful part of being a woman is that we are creative. We create. We create things. We create people. We're partners with the universe in building the future. There's not a better thing about being a woman than thinking about the possibilities, about the alternatives. And sometimes that alternatives is a different world that we have in our heads, right? Where we cannot stand what we have right now. Then we move to this alternative world that we have in our head. Or sometimes is, as I showed you, the wonderful blessing that I have had. I have a mother, I have a daughter, and now I have a granddaughter. I feel absolutely blessed. And you too are that creative. Yes? Yes? What do I like the most about Montana? First of all, I love the people. I told you. Because people are authentic. When I came for my interview, and it was a very difficult day, packed with different groups, my favorite part, though, was when I met with the students. Let me share this, which is absolutely very personal. When I entered the room where I was going to meet with the students of Montana State University, I walked from the back, and when I saw all the blonde heads, the red hair, I said, oh my God, what am I doing? And those students asked me the most difficult questions of my entire day. I mean, they went right there to the jugular. And then I said, I want to be in a school where students are that bright, where students are that intelligent. And let me tell you what I also love about those students. When I was in Puerto Rico, students are very gregarious, very nice, right? I told you that. I worked for 1 year in the East Coast. What a difference. There, if I walked the hallways and I said good morning to a student, they would look at me like, what's wrong with her today? Then I worked in Texas, in New Mexico. And then students there were very respectful. And if I would say good morning, if I prompted that, they would look at me and say good morning back. But you know what I love about Montana State? I walked around campus and the students stopped me. Good morning, President Cruzado. How are you, President Cruzado? Hi, Cruzado, how are you? I love that. So it's that sense of community that we have in Montana. When I first came, I told a person, people here in Montana are so friendly. And he told me, we're lonely. So I think that the weather has helped us build this sense of community. We know that we need each other to survive. And the last thing that I love about Montana is that people are great storytellers. And I love that. Perhaps because of my literature background, I can sit down and listen to all these stories that people have to tell. That's why I love Montana. I love the mountains, I love the horses, I love the snow, not the ice. But I love the people the most. Anything else?
One more, Cruzado.
Yes, one more. There are two more? Okay, one.
Two more.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think the lack of women in politics?
What do I think about
What do you think the lack of women in politics?
the lack of women in politics? Well, it's not only in politics. What do I think about the lack of women in science? What do I think about the lack of women in engineering? I need more women in engineering. I need more women in science. Let me tell you one thing. The average engineering department in U.S. universities has about 8% women. That's unacceptable. That should make us feel very bad. The average of women at University of Puerto Rico at Maya West, where I went to school, right now, you know how much is that? 38%. What's the difference? Are girls in Puerto Rico more intelligent? No. What's the difference? What's the difference? Opportunity. What's the difference? They have more drive? What's the difference?
The knowledge of how important it is, I guess.
Knowledge of how important it is? I think the answer is no. The difference is, and this is a message for my teachers, in Puerto Rico, you go to K-12, the message is you can be an engineer. You too are college material. And it's instilling that sense of confidence in our girls. And we can do the same. I'm here to say, looking around, you can be an engineer. You can be a scientist. You can be the next president of the U.S. So it's not only in politics. We need you to become active in every aspect of life, and particularly of public life. We need to serve. That's another wonderful thing about women. We love to serve others. There was one last question. Yes?
If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go?
I love traveling. I went to India recently, and that was fantastic. I would love to go to Africa as well, because it's so different. I would love to go to China, and to Chile, and Argentina, and I would love to go to Canada. I would like to go everywhere. I love to travel. I think it's the same reason why I love literature. Because it forces me to look at things with different eyes. So, sometimes we don't have all the money in the world to do all this traveling. But I can always travel when I open a book. And I see things from the perspective of other people. And sometimes that perspective makes me feel uncomfortable. I'm tired. But it forces me to get out of my cocoon. And that's my last piece of advice to you, my girls. Every day, do something that scares you, that takes you out of your comfort zone. Be it speaking a second language, when you're not that fluent, that you cannot get rid of this accent. Be working with math, when you don't like numbers. Do every day something that scares you, and you will be bigger and stronger and more beautiful and happier. Shall we do the same thing again, now that I have it here again? Okay? Ready? All right, let's do it again. I'm beautiful.
I'm beautiful.
I'm strong.
I'm strong.
I'm happy.
I'm happy.
Thanks for being at Montana State. Good luck.
Thanks for sharing your amazing career with us. You inspire us all here today to make our dreams possible, and you truly live out our